Predicting every Championship club's player of the season before a ball has been kicked. That is the task we're going to be taking on in today's video, guys. And I want you to put your money where your mouth is as well. Get in the comments down below who is going to be your player of the season, and I'll be reacting to those comments at the end of the season. Now, I did this video last year, and I'd say I had a varying degree of success. I'd say my hit to miss ratio was probably 3-1 in favour of miss. But I did have some decent shouts last season. I think I called Bertrand Diaz as Blackburn's best player. I had Tom Lawrence as Derby's player of the season. I think I had Willock as QPR's as well. So there were some decent shouts in there, but there were also some horror shouts, which I'm sure are about to come in today's video, but we won't know until the end of the season, and that's the fun of it. So do get involved in the comments down below. Also, if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. 300 likes would be massively appreciated. Check out yesterday's score predictions if you've not already as well. But without any further ado, let's jump into them. Birmingham, Juninho Bacuna. I think that from the second half of last season onwards, Bacuna was probably Birmingham's best player. I certainly think that looking at the quality within this Blues squad at this point in time, Bacuna is someone who I think I can hang my hat on and say, okay, yeah, he'd get into quite a few other Championship squads. In the second half of last season, 2 goals, 3 assists, a brilliant sort of all-round midfielder. And if anything, I think they need more players like Bacuna with his quality during this season, which we've all predicted to be a little bit tough for Birmingham this time around. I like what I've seen of him so far in the Blues shirt, and with some of the departures they've already had in that position, I think he's going to be absolutely vital to their survival chances this season. Blackburn Rovers, John Buckley. I really like what I saw from Buckley towards the end of last season. It seems as if he's been utilised in a number 8 role throughout some of Blackburn's pre-season matches as well, which I think is exciting and could really suit his skill set. With the departure of Rothwell, it feels like someone to step into that mantle who's already in the squad is someone like John Buckley. 3 goals, 7 assists last season. I think he is a player with the potential to absolutely explode and potentially even double those numbers next season. Blackpool, I'm going to go for Daniel Grimshaw. He's now the established number 1 at Blackpool. Had to sort of fight for that place off Chris Maxwell last time around, then got that injury in the second half of the season. But back now, Blackpool's established number 1. I think things could be a little bit rocky and unpredictable, obviously with the new manager coming in, new style of play. In terms of their outfield plays, there could be a little bit of an adaptation period. But for someone like Grimshaw, I feel has proven himself now to be a reliable shot stopper, capable of pulling off some ridiculous saves as well, and I think that Blackpool have done very well to tie him down to a new contract recently as well. So yeah, got a good feeling about Grimshaw this year from Blackpool. Bristol City, Antonin Semenyo. Now there is still every chance that a club from the Premier League comes in with a mammoth bid for Semenyo and Bristol City are forced to accept, but at this point in time Bristol City have already shown a little bit of ambition by knocking back some other clubs who have shown interest in him, and I think that if we look at his general scale of progression, I think it goes like that. He had his best season of his career to date last time around in terms of goals, assists, overall performances. 8 goals, 12 assists last time around. I think he's only predicted to go on and get better. I think he's a perfect fit into the football Bristol City play. I think he's probably their most integral player in terms of getting them up the pitch on quick transitions, and I think he's more than capable of breaking into double figures, well within double figures, for a goal return next season. Burnley, I'm going to go for Josh Brownhill. Seems like a bit of a safe pick really with all the additions they've made this summer. I'm going with a player who's already established within that Burnley squad, but could potentially be playing a slightly different role for Vincent Kompany this season, perhaps as one of those more advanced midfielders, but I'm sure we'll know more about that when Friday night rolls around and their game against Huddersfield. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Brownhill, to be honest. Being a Preston fan, obviously I saw him at North End as a teenager, more than established in the Championship from his time at Bristol City as well. I think he's a player who Burnley can rely on for this season. Cardiff City, I am going to go for one of their new boys. I'm going to go for Romain Sawyers. Have a good feeling about Sawyers and Cardiff, and this could be the club where he finally properly clicks at. I think that Sawyers at times has been a bit of a victim of being utilised in the wrong areas of the pitch, being put into the wrong role and things like that. But going off how I envisage Steve Morison wanting to play football long term, I think someone like Sawyers could absolutely fit the type of midfielder that Morison's after and what he's actually going to require from a player like Sawyers. I think he can be incredibly effective in the Championship if utilised in the right role. I think this could be a very big season for him. Coventry City, I'm going to throw it out there as Callum O'Hare. Now, as things things stand, he is still a Coventry player, and it looks like he'll be that way going into this season. Things can change, someone else can come in with a massive bid for him, as there's already been massive interest from teams around England so far. But Callum O'Hare, last season I thought was very good. You'll have seen on the channel how much I rate a player like O'Hare, but I still think he's got another level to go ahead and reach, and that level would be a more consistent goal output, both in terms of assists and goals. Last season he had his best overall output in the Championship with 13 goal contributions all round. I think with a player of his ability, he's capable of even doubling that, to be honest, and this could be the season to go ahead and do that because Coventry have been so keen to keep hold of him. Huddersfield Town, I'm going there again. I'm predicting Josh Koroma to be their player of the season. Now, if you watched last season's video, I went ahead and predicted Josh Koroma to be Huddersfield's player of the year, and obviously it didn't materialise that way. I think that by his standards and the trajectory we thought Koroma was on, he probably fell below those last season, ultimately losing his place, losing his way a little bit within that Huddersfield squad. Only scored half of the goals he did in the season prior, but I think we've all forgot just how good Josh Koroma can be when he is good, and maybe someone like Danny Schofield is the manager to go ahead and get that out of him. In the 20/21 season, he scored 8 goals, got 2 assists from just 19 starts in the Championship. I think people forget just how electric he actually was that year. I accept that last season was an off season for him, but if he can rediscover his form, he could be electric, but maybe this is just wishful thinking for me. But I'm doubling down on the Josh Koroma hype train. I'm saying he's getting back on track this season. Hull City, Oscar Estupiñán. Now, I had plenty of new additions to choose from within this Hull squad, and probably out of all the additions they've made so far, Estupiñán is the player who I'm most intrigued to see going into this next season. It shouldn't be undervalued, the fact that he scored 15 goals in Portugal's top division last season. If you give him the right service, I think he could have the potential to be really scary in the Championship this time around. Plenty of new players coming in at Hull, but I'm particularly excited to see how he gets on this season. Luton Town, Carlton Morris. I'm really excited to see Morris in a Luton shirt next season, and you have to say they have quite the plethora of forward options going into this next season. I'm particularly interested to see how Nathan Jones combines them all together, how he spreads out the game time, how they all integrate into this new system. But I thought a few other Championship clubs missed a trick really with not going in for Morris. I thought that in the games I've seen him play at Barnsley, he always seemed to be their biggest threat when he was on the pitch. And I think added into a better environment this season at Luton, he really could explode, which is exciting. Middlesbrough, Ryan Giles. Now, as the saying goes, don't fall in love with lone players, but I have a feeling that this may be the case for Middlesbrough fans and Ryan Giles this season. I just look at the way they're going to play this season under Wilder, what he wants to get out of his wing backs, and what a player like Ryan Giles can offer. I just see that synergy. It's just a match made in heaven. A player like Giles, a manager like Wilder, the potential strike force that Borough are going to be coming into this season with if they do get a few bodies over the line as well. It's just assist heaven. Millwall, I'm going to go for one of their new signings. I'm going to go for George Honeyman. I think it's always probably a safer bet to back a Millwall defender or maybe goalkeeper for their Player of the Season award, because we always expect them to be, you know, that gritty and determined defensive side. But I think George Honeyman really could be a fan favourite at Millwall. I think we look at the way he played, slotted into that whole midfield last season, really hard working, going to do a load of the legwork, but also has some real quality to bring into this midfield next season as well. And I think that the Millwall fans will absolutely take to him, and I'm backing him to be their big player this season. Norwich City, Milot Rashica. Now, the obvious choice would have been Timu Pukki, and he's probably going to go on to win Norwich's award for their Player of the Season. But if Pukki is going to have that supply this season, then Norwich are going to be relying on players like Rashica stepping up to the mark this season. It was a big outlay that they spent on him in the Premier League last season, and it just didn't happen for him whatsoever. You know, he scored 1 goal, got 2 assists in the Premier League. Sometimes for creative players like Rashica, though, it does take that drop down to the Championship, build up your confidence, because I do think there is undoubtedly a player there. You know, in his days before Norwich in the Bundesliga, he was absolutely fantastic, regularly putting up good numbers for goals and assists. So I feel like this is a real make or break season for him at Norwich, and I'm going to back it to be a make season for him. Preston North End, Daniel Johnson. I think coming into this season there was a possibility that DJ could have been used as that left-sided wing back, but now with the additions of Robbie Brady and Fernandez, I don't think that'll be the case this season. I think he can now focus on being that creative outlet in one of those number 8 positions, and I think that in a Ryan Lowe system, Daniel Johnson fits this sort of football absolutely down to a T. He's going to want to look to get on the ball in midfield, create chances. We already started to see a bit of a partnership forming last season between him and Reece, you know, picking those threaded through balls and things like that. But he got 7 goals and 5 assists in the Championship last season. A full year under Ryan Lowe, playing in his preferred position in a system that I think suits him. I think this could be a really exciting season for Daniel Johnson. Queen's Park Rangers, I'm going to go for Elias Chair. I think that with this year being a World Cup year especially, he's going to be more determined than ever in the first half of the season to be bang on form at the top of his game. You know, he's going to want to be one of Morocco's main men at the World Cup, and I think that that could really lead to maybe even an upturn in form and him reaching that next level at Queen's Park Rangers. I think that last season at times we saw Willock maybe taking on the mantle as QPR's key player, but the combinations between those two players when they were both on the pitch last season was really exciting, and I think we'll see a little bit more of that synergy and fluidity throughout that QPR side this season. But yeah, excited to see more of Chair this season. Reading, Yaku Meite. I think that people might be sleeping on Meite's ability coming into this season because we didn't really get to see all too much of him last season. He was coming off the back of that long-term injury. He ultimately only played 362 minutes of Championship football. In every season prior to that though, he consistently hit double figures in the Championship, and Reading this season need goal scorers, and Yaku Meite is exactly that. I'd back Lucas João to be right up there in terms of the goals as well, but he can be a little bit unpredictable in terms of fitness and actually getting him on the pitch. But Yaku Meite, I think that injury put behind him now, we may see him being back to his best this season, which is exciting. Rotherham United, Ben Wiles. Now, Rotherham have lost some big hitters from their League One squad last season, but for the time being, they've managed to keep hold of Ben Wiles, and I think that is absolutely crucial for their survival odds this time around. I look at that Rotherham squad and I look at the players who I think are capable of making that step up to the Championship, and he is exactly one of those players. If Rotherham are going to survive this season, I think he's going to be central to it. Sheffield United, Anil Ahmedhodzic. I'm backing the new boy to come good this season in Sheffield. Now, we're still not quite sure how the attacking structure is going to work at Sheffield United this season with the loss of Gibbs White, how they're going to account for that, what role is Rida Kadra going to play in that setup this season, who's actually going to be the main man in terms of providing the goals. But defensively, Sheffield United were a really solid outfit last season, and I have the feeling that with the addition of someone like Ahmedhodzic, maybe even they get even better in that department this season. He's a 23-year-old 6'5" centre-half who has got pedigree about him. It's seen by the price tag Sheffield United have dropped on him. I'm excited, I'm buying into the hype, what can I say? Sunderland, I am going for the obvious answer here, but I am going to go for Ross Stewart. Absolutely smashed it in League One last season, 26 goals, 3 assists, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes ahead and then translate to the Championship. Someone that we could potentially draw a little bit of a parallel to is Johnson Clark-Harris and the numbers he was putting up in League One before he got obviously into the Championship with Peterborough. He scored 31 in his final League One season, got up to the Championship with Peterborough, scored 12 goals, but albeit in a Peterborough side that was pretty poor going forward, and he himself didn't get off to a great start that season with a few injuries. So with that in mind, someone like Ross Stewart, I think fully capable of hitting, you know, around about that 15 mark, which I think would represent a great season for him in the Championship. Stoke City, I'm going to go for Lewis Baker. I think during the second half of last season, he was Stoke's best player. He came in at a point where the injuries had started to build up for Stoke. They themselves had seemed to lose their way a little bit, but he brought a real amount of quality, I thought, into that midfield. Scored 8 goals, got 2 assists from midfield during the second half of last season, scored some absolute bangers along the way as well. And his career's been really interesting because he's never had that permanent home to settle in at. You know, he's just bounced around from loan move to loan move. He's now got that permanent home in Stoke City, and I think he'll be a massive player for them this season. Swansea City, Michael Obafemi. I have said this one on the channel a few times, but I've got a good feeling about Obafemi this season. Perot was very much Swansea's main man last time around, and I still expect him to be absolutely fantastic. But Obafemi didn't really come into the starting frame at Swansea until the second half of last season. I think that second half of last season really showcased what he was all about, and that potential partnership between him, Perot and Patterson, I think has the potential to be a lot of fun this season. Watford, I'm going to go with João Pedro. He scored 9 goals, got 2 assists last time he played at this level. Was fantastic if I remember rightly, especially at the start of that season, and then seemed to fade a little bit as the year went on. But now he's a couple of years older, got more experience under his belt, and I think will only benefit from having that season with Watford in the Premier League last time around. And by all accounts, seems like he'll be a really pivotal player in what Rob Edwards' plan is for this next upcoming season. Seems like he's been used in a little bit of a free role in the final third, which I think will really suit his skill set, both from a goal scoring and creative point of view. And everyone in that Watford squad, I'm banking on Pedro being good this season for them. West Bromwich Albion, Okay Yokoshlu. I could have gone for one of their exciting attackers, but as we saw from West Brom this season, they were pretty wasteful in the final third. So on the off chance that that happens once again, I'm going to back on someone like Yokoshlu being really solid in midfield and the base point of where West Brom's potential success could come from this season. I think that midfield was a little bit of a problem area for West Brom last season. It probably went under the radar a little bit because of some other positions which were underperforming, but a player of his quality, who's arguably the best in the league in his position, I think he'll be absolute mustard in the Championship, I really do. Finishing it off with Wigan Athletic, Callum Lang. He's another player whose progression throughout his career has been on a steady upwards curve, and I think that last season was a real step towards Callum Lang being this established first team figure in the Wigan squad, and I think that this season in the Championship he has the potential to go ahead and really step up to this level. 15 goals, 7 assists for him last season in League One. I think he'll be absolutely pivotal to Wigan's survival bid this season and solidifying themselves in the Championship, and he is probably the player that I'm most excited about seeing this season from Wigan. There we have it though, guys. There was one player from every Championship club who I'm predicting before a ball has been kicked who is going to be your club's Championship player of the season this time around. Let me know in the comments down below, do you agree with my selections? Who would you personally predict to be your club's player of the season? I will be reacting to some of those comments at the end of the season, so make them good. As always though, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular content. Thanks for watching though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.